I remember her saying, this was actually prior to this, but anyways, yeah, she was saying, I can't bear the thought of seeing you, like this. And I can't have you in my life, for all good reason, of course. Totally get it and understand. She couldn't even bear to look at me though. You know what I mean? So, she was calling to say all of that. And I was just started screaming in the background. I was like, come fucking get me,
Yeah.
And she did. Right. I can't even, I don't have kids, obviously, you know that. And I can't even imagine the love for your child, to put them through that stuff. And, oh man, they just still come. I know. I'm sorry, but like, they just still come. You know what I mean? No matter what, she was always fucking there.
Welcome to the podcast, Ashley.
Hi, thank you.
Introduce yourself to the guest.
I'm Ashley. Hi.
The millions of people that aren't watching.
Yeah.
It is awesome to have you.
Mm-hmm.
I got to stop saying it's a pleasure to have you because it just sent to us like, you say it's a pleasure to have you. It is a pleasure to have everybody.
Right.
But we've been trying to do this for a little while now, trying to get you here to share your story. You have an amazing story. It always, at the very least, makes me laugh.
That's good. I like making, humorous jokes about the past.
I do too. Some people share. I love the diversity of like people sharing their stories because it like hits home with there's something for everybody, But I take the same approach. Obviously, you know that, and what really solidified me being okay with doing that because I joke around so much is I was in New York and we were reading some literature, and in the literature it says sometimes the best way to promote God's will is a sense of humor, and I was like, bam,
yeah,
I'm justified. Talking all this shit.
Yeah, right, exactly. That's funny. That's good. That's why the literature, it's good to read the literature.
Yeah.
Maybe if I did it a little bit more, I'd find that, but that's okay.
Yeah, so but I'm super excited to have you on.
Yeah, I'm glad to be here. Thanks for asking me.
Yeah, you're welcome. You're definitely welcome. So you want to start out with your clean date?
Yeah, it's June 14th, 2015. So just shy, God willing, I make it 8 years.
Yeah.
That's in a couple months. So yeah,
wow, it is coming close.
It went quick too, I feel like. Yeah. I can't believe it's been 8 years, when I sit here and like really think about it. I'm like, wow.
Yeah.
It just blows my mind.
Yeah, it goes so fast, but then you're like, I've experienced so much in that time.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. So you want to tell us a little bit about who you are, where you're from?
Yeah.
What happened? What it's like now?
Sure. The who, what, whens.
Yeah.
So I grew up in St. Augustine. I was originally born in New York, but we moved down when I was 3, and grew up in St. Augustine, and good childhood. I had good parents. You've met them. You've been down to that same house when I had my surgery, and everybody came down, which was so cool. And
how old was your parents when they moved? Because your mother still got that like, she seemed to still have that like New Yorkish bravado kind of.
Oh yeah. No, she does, and it's lightened up so much over like the last 10 years, probably. Yeah. But gosh, growing up, that's why when people meet me, they're like, think that I'm lived longer in New York, and I'm like, no, I just lived around it though. Between my mom, my dad always just kind of had a straight voice. I don't know. But like my grandparents, my grandfather, definitely, he was from the Bronx and he had that heavy accent his whole life. So listening to him, my mom, all my aunts and uncles that still, lived up in New York. A couple are down here now, but yeah, I don't know. I just grew up around listening to it. So sometimes I get it in me too, But yeah, it was in, 88 when we moved down, and I don't know, they were at least 30.
Mm.
Yeah. So, yeah, she definitely, still has it in her.
Yeah.
Especially when she's like just most comfortable and we're all just hanging around.
Yeah.
It comes out a lot, or, when she's with her sister for sure. Oh God, it's so funny because my aunt still lives in New York and Long Island. So when she comes down, it all comes out. So, but yeah, so that's what I was gonna say. Like, I mean, that house, that was the house I grew up in, the one that you came down to. So, nice property, nice house, had good parents, I will say though, like the disease of addiction is throughout my family though. It just didn't really hit home on my parents, but she had more on my mom's side, I do know. Don't know much on my dad's side, but I mean, I've, some of her aunts and uncles, died to the disease. One uncle died, and I heard all these stories growing up, of course, but, one uncle died in his early 50s from cirrhosis of the liver, and, another one was a heroin addict. She ended up getting killed by her husband because he found her in bed with her lover, who was a woman. And he shot her.
Wow.
And killed her. So, a lot of crazy stuff from back then too, throughout my family. I just found out some stories about my grandpa too. He, in New York, back in his time, getting into, like the Italian mob was very normal.
Oh, yeah.
Let me put it like that.
Yeah.
So it's not like you really got into the mob or anything like that, but, people all the time when you're, living up there and stuff like that. So, and I guess he, tried to do some things, but in the end, my grandpa was just, kind of still had a good heart and couldn't do like really bad things that they were trying to get him to do or something like that. So he definitely never was like into it. But
like, we need you to off somebody. Hey, wait a minute. All right.
I do know this one story. He was trying to go collect the money for a bookie, and so they were like, go get this money from so and so, and it's like you got to beat it out of them or something like that. And he ended up paying off the guy's debt. He just couldn't really go. He couldn't really go like beat the guy up or nothing.
That's funny.
So, but I did hear how like he almost got so growing up my entire life, and I just heard this story like a month ago because we did my Nana's what was it, 89th birthday, and so we all got together. And so anyways, my whole life growing up. So me and my grandpa were really, really close growing up when I was a kid because he lived right up the road from me. And so he always picked me up from school, and it was just like me and him, I mean, just imagination running wild. And he was crazy. My grandfather was a nut, so he had more of imagination than I did. But he had this big like skin. It was a skin graft, so it was like this big knot on his palm, and I don't know. I think I was told a story that he got attacked by a dog, but I just found out like a month ago that he actually got shot at, and he went to hit the gun out of the way, and that was the shot in his hand. Wow. I was like, wow, I never knew that.
Oh, yeah.
So kind of funny.
Grandpa was thugging it.
Yeah. It's crazy. But so anyways, definitely all throughout, the family and stuff like that. But, and hearing those stories and whatnot. But, growing up though, I mean, shoot, my parents, they were hard workers. My dad worked hard, gave us everything that we needed. That's for sure. My mom was, my biggest cheerleader, you know what I mean? Supported me in anything that I wanted to do, I remember 8 years old, I want to be a lawyer, God damn it, that's right, you're going to be a lawyer, I played the drums for a little while, she ran out, got me a drum set, like, you're going to be the next Sheila E., who was a female drummer, back in the 80s, I think, so yeah, the love and the support was there for sure, on my mom's side, with my mom. My dad, he was the worker. He knew how to provide,
that was the roles of their generation.
Exactly. Yeah. So, so we definitely had that as kids. And, and just sometimes I try. I used to try and really pinpoint that moment. Then it's it doesn't matter. You know what I mean? It doesn't. But at whatever age, 11, 12, something like that, just things changed in me,
Puberty for one.
Yeah, for real. It's all of a sudden just such a bitch.
Yeah.
I was such a nasty bitch as a young teenager.
Really?
Yeah. Oh my God. I was.
People keep warning me about my daughter, and I'm like, no.
Yeah. I mean, because I can remember 10 and under for sure. I was always smiling, always laughing. Mm-hmm. I mean, stories from my aunts and uncles just told me I was a happy baby. I always wanted to be in the mix. I mean, when our family would come down and we would do big family gatherings, I was right there with the adults, I didn't want to go play in my bedroom. I wanted to always be, hearing all the stories, whatever. And we would always play poker and cards and all types of stuff. And so yeah, I remember that. And then, right, that change happens, and a lot of the, depression and, what I mean, just the attitude. And of course, then I was fighting with my mom all the time, and I look back at it now, it was over nothing. I just wasn't getting my way. That's really what it boiled down to. And then, I remember the first kind of thing as to where I was enjoying the escape, right? Was, did you ever make yourself pass out?
Yes.
Do you remember doing that?
Yes.
Yeah. Yes. And I remember that. I used to do that a lot, you know? And I first learned it. I joined drama. Don't even know why. I'm not that type of person to want to be, acting or anything and on stage. And I joined drama. Of course, didn't get a role. And so I was just stuck in the backstage where you make noises to go with the play or whatever.
Yeah.
And that's what we would be doing. Me and a couple of the kids would make each other pass out.
In the behind the stage?
Yeah, behind the stage, behind the curtain.
Did you do the whole take some deep breaths and hold your arms?
Yeah. And then they would grab your neck and hold you against the wall.
Yeah. You grab your neck. Sounds like abuse.
I mean, it was probably the start as to why I thought a lot of things were okay.
Yeah.
Oh, this is fine. Yeah, choke me out. I mean, it's crazy. But yes, I can remember that. And I remember do me again. You know what I mean? Oh, my turn again, you know? Having that feeling I just want to be taken away. You know what I mean? Just, get out of my head, really. And I think that's the majority of the start of it for me. You know what I mean? Because like I said, at that age of, 12 or whatever, I mean, just what we go through as kids. I thought I was too ugly, too fat, you know what I mean? I was getting some acne, and, the comparison to other people, comparing, others. And, my head never shut up, and I remember that as a kid. And I used to journal a lot. And I used to get a lot out of it through that. But, once I was, I think, I was 13 when I know I had drank a couple times before then for sure, but, I definitely started smoking pot at 13 and, that kind of took me away from all of that, just turned my brain off for a little while, so to speak. And I liked that, and then a few, 3 years later, I mean, I was definitely drinking more and more then too, but by 17, I was, started doing coke and everything. And, and again, like I can remember all the first,
Yeah.
which I think is important. I remember the house I was at in the neighborhood in St. Augustine and everything. I remember who I was with, and it was the first night I was doing coke, and and it was all that stuff too. Like I remember before then, like because I was hanging out with people who were already doing it, right? Two of my girlfriends from school, and I'll never do that. I'll never put anything in my nose. Like I used to just drink and smoke weed and stuff like that, and after about a year of watching them, eventually I got curious. I was like, let me try it out. And sure enough, when I tried it, again, I can remember that night, like, more type of feeling, let's go all night,
I think everybody has that feeling when they do cocaine.
Yeah. Right, exactly.
More, give me some more.
Yeah, right. And I remember them asking me, like, are you okay, Ashley? I mean, I'm like, yeah, what are you talking about? I'm fine. Lay it out, like, let's do more.
Yeah.
And they were like worried about me because they knew it was my first time doing it. And I was just like balls to the wall with it. Mm-hmm. And another thing that I remember too is this chick that was there. She was older, so I know she was already like into all of this for a long time, And that night, I watched her for hours do this path of like this triangle. She would come in, do a line, go to the back bedroom, peep out the window, go outside to the front door behind the boat, and then for a while, you know what I mean? And then come back into the kitchen table and do more. And she left this whole pile on the kitchen table, so we were just doing hers too. And she'd come in, she couldn't talk barely, you know what I mean? Do my shit. We're like, no, you know what I mean? And then she, okay. And then she'd be on her path. Yeah. And I watched her do that shit for hours. Like, I'll never forget that because I was just like, she's crazy, Yeah. But eventually, right, I got to be in that nut job too, you know? Stuck and just, obsessive and everything like that. But, and I just say that because it's like, you would think at that time I would have been like, maybe I shouldn't do this, but, it's just not even a thought in my mind at that time, So, just that continued on, of course.
So 17. So it was kind of just like partying on the weekends.
Yeah.
Still?
Yeah, it was, I did graduate high school. I don't know how, but I did. I mean, I don't remember anything.
Yeah.
I got through it. That's for sure.
Yeah. A lot of addicts say that. And I think that if like you take away the drugs, the ambition is almost unparalleled to a lot of people,
Yeah.
So they're like, I don't know how I did. It was like, cause you just make it happen.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? You wake up broke. It's the same way when you wake up broke.
Yeah.
Like, I gotta get high. Let's make it happen.
Yeah, we do. Right. Exactly. We make things happen. Yeah. That's for sure. And, So 17, and it was like a lot on the weekends. I was working already, making my own money, all that stuff after school, which also led into like, I mean, God, I remember even at like 15, 16, like I just couldn't wait till I was grown, like get older. I wanted to be out. Like that was my mindset. Like, let me just go somewhere and make some money and, you know what I mean? Have my job, have my own place, and then I'm good, And so I like couldn't ever wait for that day, And so sure enough, I graduated high school. I was in a relationship at that time already for a year. My first love, we were together for like 6 years. So I met him when I was 17. And of course he was doing, it was, through the little crew that I met at 17, and we were all getting fucked up and, but it felt like a sense of family in that way, because we were just like that solid crew. We hung out all the time, And then, so I graduated high school. I remember I went to Cancun with like the graduating, like the class, whatever trip, And I came back, and that very night I told my mom, I was like, I'm moving out. That's it. I graduated high school. I felt like I did my part. And now I'm fucking gone.
Yeah.
And she was like, okay. And of course, she knew the guy I was with and loved him. I mean, it was, at that time, just, a good relationship.
Okay.
And I mean, things were all right. But it was definitely the start of everything. That's for sure. So I packed up my stuff, moved out, and moved in with him. He was living with his older brother and his wife, and so we all lived together. And that was then the time where, what was on Friday and Saturday night, then it started on a Thursday night, because why not? Let's just start on Thursday.
Yeah. Not at mom's house no more.
Yeah, exactly. Let's start Thursday nights, and then it crept into Sunday nights, and that whole routine, and then God, I mean, that went on for a while. We had our own place, because then we met. Well, his brother went to prison. That's right. So then we got our own place, and same thing. He was in construction. I was a waitress, and making cash tips, and I just thought everything was great. And just doing a lot of coke though.
Yeah.
And at 18, like now I was 18, 19 when I was living in my first place. It was a trailer in the middle of the woods, and I fucking loved it. Yeah. You had to drive like a quarter mile into the woods. So again, like you saw the house I grew up in,
Yeah.
And I had that trailer. I'll never forget when my parents came over for the first time. We were doing a cookout. My mom just walked in. She's like, what the hell? Because it wasn't a nice one,
Yeah. Yeah.
It was just an old tin can, single wide, not knocking it.
Yeah.
I loved it.
Got the wood paneling for the walls.
Yeah. I mean, it was great.
Well,
though.
wood paneling.
Yeah. Exactly. Yeah, but it was in the middle of the woods, and I fucking loved it. Just kind of like away from everything and whatnot. But on the south end of St. Augustine, and it's not even there anymore. I do know that they like tore down the whole area. But so where was I going with all of that?
He was 18 or 19. He was
18.
Thursday to Sunday now.
Yeah, exactly. That's what I was going to say. So at 18, you can, God dang, I could just go for days, go to work. Nothing fazed me at 18, 18, 19, didn't even matter, that whole type of like locked up sense didn't really kick in yet,
Mm-hmm.
And I could just go to work. My boss always knew, but she didn't really care. She was like, whatever, you're here and you're, you do good at your job. So,
Yeah.
And, but like, right, that motivation or whatever was still there, and, so then we did break up though. Things eventually, of course, drove apart. I mean, the drugs became more and more, I got into then pain pills and that whole thing. And that was when it was like crazy in Florida too.
Mm-hmm.
Actually it was before that. It was even before that too. So, I was I did a lot of ecstasy then too as well. So, the drugs changed a lot,
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I've had my time with a lot of them just because I was always, searching for the next new thing. You know what I mean? It's not new, but, next thing to like escape because, you do something for so long, then you get used to it, and it's like, all right, well, I found pain pills. And then that was just like, ooh, I can nod out for hours and not feel anything. You know what I mean? So like now that was attracted to me, and so yeah, I mean, God, I remember there was like this guy who had cancer, and he was gonna die. Like that was a fact, and the doctors just gave him. And again, this was 2000 and I think 4 or 5 or something like that, so it was before all the changes with the laws and stuff like that.
Yeah.
I mean, they would just freaking give him everything.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? The fentanyl lollipops, the fentanyl patches, methadone wafers. I mean, everything, Oxy 80s.
Yeah.
And he wanted to smoke crack.
Yeah.
So he would just sell it all.
For cheap too,
You know?
usually.
Yeah,
People
hell
are-
yeah. Right back then it was way cheap.
Yeah.
And we would just buy a bunch of, I mean, he would keep whatever he needed to not get sick, but then he just wanted to smoke crack. So he sold a lot of it. And, you know, Jesus, you know, that was before I really had the tolerance for it all. And, you know, just do that and like cut open the patch and just eat the gel out of it. It was so gross.
It was. Yeah.
It was so nasty. And then, you know, so yeah, I would just be obliterated for, you know, hours and hours and hours. Cause like I said, I just had no tolerance at that time because I was just getting into everything with that, you know, that type of drug. So, you know, it's crazy. Cause then of course, you know, you lose contact with them or, you know, maybe he ended up dying. I don't know. But, you know, eventually we didn't hear from him. And, you know, then you find your other ways, right? You know, and just when you're looking, you're going to find it. That's for sure. And, you know, so eventually though, you know, it came to an end with our relationship though. Obviously, right? You know, when you're just using all the time and going that route together, you know, I just felt like we were two roommates living together at that time, you know?
Yeah.
There was no, you know, I had no love to give, that's for sure, you know? I wasn't faithful.
Yeah.
You know, that's really what ended it, to be honest.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know, I wasn't faithful and, you know, just didn't care either. You know what I mean? So, so then, yeah, we broke up and then, I was like 23 at that time. Yeah. And, kind of just, you know, like now he wasn't there to, you know, have to do him with or, you know, anything like that. Or, you know, sometimes he'd tell me like, no more, you know, stuff like that. So like, you know, now I was by myself and it was just like, even just like that next level down, I feel like, you know, and, you know, that went on for some time. And then, I remember like my first inclination, like something's wrong. Right. And that's so crazy. It's like going through all of this, you don't think anything's wrong at all.
Yeah.
And my uncle's wife, they lived in Boca, and they had to come up to the Mayo Clinic in Jacksonville. So they stayed with my mom in St. Augustine, and she needed to have some surgery done and this and that, and other things going on with her. And but she had a morphine pump in her, you know, or whatever they do. And she had, I can't even remember her illness as to why she had to go to the Mayo Clinic, but regardless, I was there and I remember looking at her and she was like only 47 at this time. And I mean, you know, drop dead, gorgeous Italian woman, right? When she was younger. And I remember seeing her then and she was 47 and she didn't even look like herself. You know what I mean? And was like hunched over, you know, her skin was like, you know, jaundice. It was like the yellow skin or whatever. And like, she just looked bad. And I was like, wow, you know, and regardless, I know she had a sickness, but I also know it was a lot of other things too, you know? And so that was my first time where I was like, maybe I should stop doing what I'm doing, you know? Yeah. When you just see something, you know?
Yeah.
And so, and at this time, you know, this was a time where we had no idea what addiction meant, what the disease is, you know, nothing like that. So we were all in denial, right? My mom didn't even know. They didn't know I was getting high then, you know? They just thought I was drinking and partying just like everybody else does, right? So I told them the truth, you know? And I was like, I think I need help with something, you know? And I told them. At
the hospital?
Well, no, I never went to the hospital, but it was at their house. It was probably like a week or two later after they left. And I got honest with my parents, and it was usually my mom, and then my mom just tells my dad whatever. But, you know, I got honest with my mom, and I was like, I think I need some help, you know? And at that time, again, like I said, like we were so in denial about things and uneducated, you know what I mean? We just don't know. So it was just like, oh, okay, yeah, you know, you'll quit taking them and everything will be fine. I was like, yeah, perfect.
Yeah.
And so I went up to Jersey to go stay with one of my aunts. And I was like, well, let me go up there, you know, like I quit my job and that I was at for like 5 years, right? And that was another thing, like, too, like, throughout my addiction, like, I can hold down a job, you know what I mean? Well, when you're waitressing, it's just whatever, you know, you just show up, they don't care, you know? It's not like I was really holding down a tough job.
Good to get my drugs anyways.
Like, I can do longevity, that's for sure, because I was at one for 5 years, another one for 4 years after this job, you know? So, like... But, like, that played a role in my denial as well as, like, you know, me being an addict because I just thought I was fine because, you know, I'm working. Like, and a lot of people I hung out with were, you know, I don't want to say they were worse than me, but I thought that, you know what I mean? Like, my perspective then, you know, things obviously have changed on how I see things. You know I was just as sick then as anybody else, but I don't know. I mean, some are sicker than others, you know?
Yeah.
But, you know, a lot of people I hung out with were already like just, you know, never worked, you know, always just scamming and hustling and that stuff. So it's like I saw them doing that. I was like, well, I'm not doing that shit, you know, like I go to work, you know. But the truth of the matter is, you know, I'm spending all my hard-earned money on drugs first. And then I'm, you know, squeezing everything I can out of my mom. You know what I mean? And because at this time, too, I was living in a house that, you know, I rented from her. So it was, you know, oh, Mom, I only got half the rent. And then, of course, I pay that half. And then over the next course of a couple of weeks, I'm $50 her to death, getting whatever half rent I paid her back. You know what I mean? Like, you know, I did that so many times. Or, the electric bill, you know, just give me cash, you know? So I did that a lot, you know, so I damn sure never fucking paid for anything myself, you know, even if I lived in a house, you know, that I maintained for a few years. So a lot of that played a role in my denial as well. But so I went up to Jersey, though, at this time. And
is this to get help?
Yeah, just to get out of town.
Okay.
Right?
Yeah.
Because
this was the plan you and your mother came up with?
Yeah.
No, yeah.
You know, that's it. Yeah. Because, you know, I mean, talking about, you know, treatment. I mean, we didn't know what any of that was. No clue. You know, I never knew anything about a program, detox, rehabs. It just wasn't, you know. I feel like, and I don't know if it's just because we're in recovery, but like we hear a lot about it now, or is it becoming more of a talk now than it was then? I don't know. But, you know, hell, I didn't know what any of that was back then. So, right. We just thought, okay, well, let me leave town and for a little bit and, you know, get off because I knew I would go through the withdrawals, you know, and let me just get away.
Is this the withdrawals to the pain pills?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. All those. So I went up to Jersey. It was like a week before Thanksgiving. And I did. I went through, oh God, it was miserable, you know, but I went through it, the withdrawals for like a good 30 days. And then I started to feel a little bit better, but I did spot that my aunt has some pills in her cabinet, you know, so I took those, of course, on one of the days and, you know, I guess she had some leftover ones from a past surgery and, you know, see them. You see the label real quick, you know?
It's not like you went looking through the medicine cabinets for them.
Huh?
It's not like you went through looking through the medicine cabinets.
And it was weird because it was in the kitchen too. It was such a weird spot, but I saw it one day and I was like, you know, I remember taking notice first and then it was like a few days later, I was like, fuck that shit. Like, you know what I mean? The obsession got strong enough and I went and took them, you know? And, of course, took the whole damn bottle, you know, not just one, you know, let me take everything. And so that kind of became a whole big thing. But, you know, she didn't, like, kick me out or anything. But I then stayed, though, till March. So I was up there for probably like 4 months or something. I decided that I was going to move up there because that's always a great idea. It's Florida's problem. Florida is the problem. Let me get away from Florida, you know?
Yeah.
Let me leave Florida and I'm going to stay up here now. And during that time, though, I was just drinking a lot, though, you know?
Yeah.
Same thing as like back in the day. Like I would go to Long Island for the weekend and, you know, on Thursday night or something like that and just party, you know, Friday night, Saturday night, and then, you know, go back to Jersey on Sunday and rest up for the week.
Yeah.
And then, you know, go back over to Long Island. Like I was starting to do that routine again, you know. Didn't get a job, you know, nothing. So I really wasn't doing nothing. I was just like bumming it at our house pretty much.
Yeah.
And then, oh God, it was like March 10th or something, and they had another snowstorm, and I was like, I can't stand this. It's like, I called my mom, I was like, hey, what are you doing? And she was like, oh, sitting on the back porch, it's so beautiful, blah, blah, blah. I was like, yeah, well, it's fucking snowing here, and I'm coming home. She was like, wait, what are you talking about? No. I was like, no, I'm sorry, I'm coming home, you know, like just telling her. And at that time, I had like a 96 S10, and I packed all my shit up that night, and I left the next morning at like 5 a.m., and I came straight down, drove home, and, you know, when I took those pills from my aunt, it was probably like, you know, a couple of months before I had left or something like that, maybe even 3 months, you know? So I thought I'd be fine, right? 3 months without, you know, and of course, drinking was not a problem, right?
Yeah.
Just my mentality at that time. And, so I started driving home and, you know, straight through whatever. And then I was, you know, in a great mood because I was going back to Florida. I love it, you know, just listening to music the whole time, like in a really good mood. I'll never forget that. And then like the minute I hit the Georgia-Florida state line, it was like all of a sudden, you know, like this feeling comes over me, right? And like now my mind is like thinking about some pills and like thinking about getting some. And then just that thought, one too many thoughts or whatever, too long on that thought. And then that obsession kicked in and I couldn't think of anything else, you know? And so I got on the phone and I got it set up and, you know, before I even went back to my mom's house, you know, and I got high first. And now again, this was all before I ever knew anything. So I had no idea what that was, you know, what I just felt and went through. And, you know, and I mean, didn't even really think twice about it. Of course, I just know that now, you know, looking back on things, but that it was the obsession and compulsion, you know, and sure as shit, you know, it just picked up right where I left off, even worse, you know. It was this lady that I used to buy from, and she like just got a whole new script like the day before, so she was stocked and ready to go. And you know, back then that was when doctor shopping was happening, so she was stocked, you know. And so yeah, I bought a bunch from her, and you know, it was just a mess all over again instantly, you know. And I stayed at my mom's for a little bit, and I could look the part, you know, like I say how much we were in denial, but like, you know, I don't think my mom ever saw me like nodded out on the couch or on the floor or anything like that. You know what I mean? So, you know, when I talk about us being, or, you know, just not knowing, she just never saw me like that, you know? Now, granted, I lived by myself a lot and, you know, she didn't ever have to really see me like that in a way, you know? But, yeah, people just didn't know, and I could look the part, you know? Whenever we got together, it was, you know, dolling up and doing all of that stuff and, you know, whatever. They just didn't know.
Yeah.
And so anyways, so yeah, I stayed with her for a little bit, and then I moved into where my grandpa used to stay. And because he had already passed away at this time, but they still had the condo, right? The apartment. So it was available. So I moved in and I ended up getting a job. And, but I was just right back, you know, to everything. And I'll never forget, like, I woke up, I had a couch from Goodwill and then like my bed in the bedroom. I never slept in the bed. I always slept on the couch because that's where I was comfortable at.
Yeah.
You know, you just nod out at the end of the night and you just stay there, you know, smoking away, you know?
Yeah.
And so I had the couch and a 5-gallon bucket turned over upside down with the ashtray, you know, on top. And I would just lay there and smoke all night and everything. And I remember waking up and I was just like, damn, you know, how did I end up back here? You know, how did all this happen? You know? And you know, when you're so desperate, so like that thought came in and then I didn't have anything. So I had to go to work. And, you know, when you're desperate, you need money, you start reaching out to people you ain't even talked to in like a couple of years. Like, let me just, you know, take a shot in the dark. Hopefully they'll answer, you know, something like that. So the guy, I called this one guy, he was the boyfriend of my ex's sister, right? We all used to hang out, you know, a few years prior and stuff like that. So I reached out to him and, you know, asked him for some money and, you know, and he said, okay. And he gave it to me. And I was like, I promise I'll pay you back tomorrow. You know? Which I did, though. I did. Oh, wow. Yeah, I know, right? I went to work. I made the money. And I paid him back the next day. And I, for whatever reason, something came over me. And I started crying. And I was like, I can't believe this shit. And he was like, didn't you, like, leave town for a while? You know, St. Augustine's small, so everybody knows everything. And I was like, yeah, and blah, blah, blah. So he starts talking about, you ever remember some times when I didn't used to drink when we were all hanging out? And I was like, yeah. And he was like, yeah, that's because I was going to these meetings and blah, 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 blah. I was like, what? You know? And still didn't really understand what any of that meant. And he was like, you want to go to one tonight? And I said, yes, you know? So I was like, all right, whatever. You know, don't know what I'm getting into, but, you know, I'll do it. So, you know, and I was still high, of course, but I went to my first meeting. Like that was my introduction, right, to the very first time. And it was one of those old churches downtown St. Augustine. It was huge. You know, it was a speaker meeting that night. It was packed. You know, I don't know. You know, the seed was planted for sure. You know, I did not stay clean, obviously, but the seed was planted. And something came over me that night because I definitely cried. Like I heard something. I don't know what that was, you know, sitting here today. But something came over me and I was crying and I was like, oh my God. You know? And sure enough, though, then he was like, hey, there's another one at the hospital tomorrow morning. Why don't you meet me there? And I was like, okay. So then, and this was the other fellowship, right? So I go there and then I'm like talking to, you know, a couple of women after the meeting, and I'm just like, I don't know what I'm going through, blah, 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 you know, because like now I don't have anything and I'm withdrawing. And she was like, well, there's actually an NA meeting in that same room in 30 minutes. Why don't you hang out for that one? And so that's how I then got introduced to NA. And, you know, but I was 24. I just, you know, shit wasn't happening yet, you know? And I just, you know, I wasn't ready. I still very much enjoyed getting high at that time, you know? It's just, you know, maybe that everyday feeling, like the control feeling, you know, that compulsion, you know, I didn't like. But I damn sure didn't want to quit using, that's for sure, you know? And I went into that first meeting and, you know, I was super cute at 24, real thin. And there was like 5 guys in that meeting. I'll never forget that. And, you know, I started hooking up with one of them like right away. Because, you know, I still went to some meetings afterwards and, you know, kept using though. You know, just thought maybe I would use less or this or that. And, you know, this guy had like 9 months and
oh, he was big time.
Yeah.
He was brand new.
right. Damn, you got 9 months? What? You know? Yeah. It was hot shit back then. He was clean, used to dress nice too. Yeah. And so yeah, we started hooking up in no time. And you know, pretty much it was just like, you know, I was just waiting for him to be ready to get high, you know, which didn't take long either. Sorry, that was my foot again. Which didn't take long either, you know. unfortunately. And so we stayed together for 3 years, did the whole in and out thing, in and out of meetings, in and out. Really, for me, it was like when shit came crashing down and, I felt like there was no way out of something. I would go to a meeting, share all my bullshit, right? Mm-hmm. And I would leave and get high again, The effort of like changing anything just was not there. In a way, it's kind of just using the rooms in a way, but it was just part of my process, I was definitely the one that was high a lot in meetings, nodding out, trying to stay, especially if it was like a meditation meeting where they turned off the lights. I was like, oh, shit. I'm ready to fall asleep in a heartbeat. And so anyways, it's, that went on for several more years. And, it's just the same old shit over and over and over, At this time, I was working at another place for 4 years. And I was at a truck stop. I was at a Denny's and a truck stop.
Man, bottom of the barrel.
Yeah, for real. I worked the graveyard shift.
At least you wasn't working the parking lot of the truck stop.
Yeah, true. But I saw a lot of interesting people out there. I'll tell you what. It was crazy. I used to work the graveyard shift on the weekends too, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday nights. It was just wild.
Prime time.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. It was wild, but... anyways, it all of that's just kind of the same, there wasn't, I just never realized anything was, still wrong with me, It just, just didn't really look at all of that. I don't know. It's just crazy, how we can just be so oblivious to a lot of things,
Yeah. I think it's that, like, I'm not this bad yet. Those excuses.
Right.
When we say denial, that's what we mean. It's like, I'm not,
at
least I'm not a crackhead, or something like that. Always like, downplaying the situation.
Well, right. And at this time, I had never smoked crack or anything like that. So, exactly. And so this guy, he would do pills just to make me happy. But when he collect his check at the first of the month, he'd go smoke crack, and I'd be so mad.
Yeah.
Nodding out. Can't even fucking see it. I'd be cussing him out though.
Yeah.
Or having to go into the hood. There was so many different stories of just like him using somebody's car and like renting it out to the dope dealer, and then I'd have to go get this shit, you know what I mean? High as fuck on pills, but I thought they were all losers because they're fucking on crack. Yeah, right, exactly. Smoking crack. Just stupid shit, you know? And me going down, I got a big, at this time too, I had a really big mouth, and hot-headed, right? And, all the guys posted up at the store, I'd be trying to cuss them all out and everything. Tell them, go home. Get your fucking ass out of here, Nobody really pulled a gun, but I remember one dude like lifted up his shirt and like waved his gun, like, showed it to me. And I was like, what you got, just running off at the mouth, like carelessness, like he very well could have shot me, and then this guy come running out the store. What are you fucking doing? Like throw me in the car and, just crazy stuff. And, so eventually, though, we broke up. Needless to say,
seemed like
right?
a match made in
heaven.
I
know, right? I don't think it was any. I'm trying to remember how it ended. I really can't think about that right now. But anyways, it just ended. Drugs, right?
Yeah.
Drugs ended it. Yeah. That's what it was. I feel like everything ends in such like a big blowout for me that it's memorable. Yeah. But this one we just ended it. And he left. He moved away. And so yet again, here I am, in that same fucking house. I was in and out of this house, right? That my mom always, this extra house. I was in and out, in and out. I lived with my sister. Then another time I lived there. Had a roommate. And then me and my sister were back there again, just in and out stuff over the course of the years. And then lo and behold, so then all the changes with like, the pill mills, the doctor shopping, all that crazy time, right, in Florida. All of that came to a halt, right? And then, God, I think the last time I bought some pills, they were like $40 a piece. And it was Christmas Day. And I was like, God damn, bitch. And she was like, it's Christmas. I said, exactly. Yeah. It's fucking Christmas. Help me out, you know? And she wouldn't do it. So I bought them anyways, right? Still got to get them. Yeah. And then it was after that, I was like, man, shit, you know, I can't do $40 for one fucking pill. You know, I need multiple throughout the day. Yeah. And that was when I made the decision to start going to the clinic at least, right? You know, let me go get stuff legally and, you know, started doing that, wake up, 5 a.m., go get my little daily dose.
Yeah,
you know?
Clinic, you mean methadone clinic.
Yeah.
So people that don't know.
Sorry. Yeah. And I was doing Suboxone because they do that there too. So I was taking Suboxone because I used to abuse methadone a long time ago. So I was like, I'm not doing methadone. Can't do that. So, you know, I would get Suboxone. A lot of times I would buy a bunch of Suboxone from people. And that way, if I couldn't find something, then I at least have that to like not get sick and everything.
Yeah. So you were trying to get clean or you just...
Yeah, no, let me just make some different decisions.
Yeah.
You know,
like not in the clean term of like a recovery, but you were trying to do better.
Yeah, trying to do better. Exactly. Yeah. Right. And it's, you know, and it's funny too, because at this time, like, I feel like I was really giving up on the program, you know, mentally. Because like you know, those other years prior, I mean, I did the in and out for like 6 years. Now at this time it was probably 4 years or something, but it was like, this shit don't fucking work. So, you know, going back to meetings and everything just wasn't even a thought in my mind anymore, you know? So, right, I went to the clinic, got on Suboxone and started doing all of that. And, you know, it saved me a bunch of money. And, you know, didn't have to run the streets like I was and, you know, hanging out with people I didn't even give a shit for, you know what I mean? Just all that stuff. And I could just wake up, get my dose, go to work, and go home. You know what I mean? Which was a pretty sad existence in itself, too, you know? But, again, I thought that was better than doing all the other stuff. So I did that for some time. And, you know, turned out a lot of people I knew was there anyways. Yeah. You know? We'd be like, hey, what's up? Hey, you know? All shooting the shit in line while we're waiting. Yeah. I hate those fucking places. Yeah. I really.
That line would be wrapped down the street.
Dude, yeah. It was awful. Now, and the one in St. Augustine was smaller, but still. Yeah. It'd be a line out the door. But yeah, it's just funny. I don't know. I don't have a lot of respect for those places. And it's crazy, too, because the one in St. Augustine, it's like the clinic, and then on the opposite end is a recovery center. It's like, really? You know? Just blows my mind that it's in the same, it's an L-shaped complex, and that's exactly how it's set up. Nothing in between, though, because it's like the offices. And I'm like, this is nuts. Yeah. But, so I did that for quite some time. And, but, you know, I got bored. Because nothing was changing as far as, you know, the internal stuff, right? So, I got bored. And, you know, the disease was still in me, obviously. I'm still feeding it anyways. And I took high doses, too. Let me say that as well, you know? Anybody who maybe goes to a doctor and properly takes that and wings off and all, I wasn't doing any of that stuff. So, you know, with my story on it, I was on very high doses of it. And, you know, I had no plan. Because, you know, you can tell them at the clinic when you want to up it and when you want to lower it, you know what I mean? They're not, you know, really getting you on a wing down program, you know? Yeah. So I was on, some, you know, high doses of it. And
it's important to know, too, those people aren't, some of them may be in recovery, but a lot of them are just professionals, you know, following a protocol set by, you know, a standard of a doctor or a facility or whatever. So,
right. Because everybody's, what's the word I'm thinking of? You know, everybody's whatever, you know, you have a counselor there. Everybody's, you know, I can't think of the word, but anyways, you know, everybody has one. Yeah. To talk to and all that stuff. So, every once in a while they want to meet with you, go over some things, but yeah, they're not really setting you up on okay, we're going to start, in a month, you're going to wing down to, you're going to drop down another milligram or whatever it is, it's just, you can literally live the rest of your life going there and taking those doses, So, and that was going to be my plan at that time. That's for sure. So anyways, right. So I was still very in my disease, still hung out with some of the same people. I didn't really have a lot of friends, but I did have a couple of friends at that time, that was from like back in the day, and they were all doing the same thing on Suboxone and stuff like that. So we just thought, we were like, oh yeah, man, we got out of that life.
Yeah.
But then we'd get together and, do a bunch of coke again, and I fucking hated it at this time. At that time, I freaking couldn't stand coke anymore, Yeah. And but we would do it, right? And so anyways, at whatever point, yet again another guy, and it was somebody that I knew for a long time, but that's when I got with him and started using meth, and smoked it for the first time, and again that was I'll never do that, and it's crazy too, because a lot of people that I was getting pills from or doing pills with or whatever, or if they were on heroin. Actually, heroin I don't think was really that big in St. Augustine. It was just mainly all the other stuff, but a lot of them switched over to doing meth, because when you're high on meth, you just don't feel your withdrawals. So I had already knew people who were doing it and, trying to make an attempt at cooking it. And so, right, I started doing it, and then I didn't go to the clinic, and, and it does do that. I mean, you just don't feel your withdrawal. So I didn't really have to go through the withdrawal stage at that time. But I did, God, you just lose your mind on that shit though. It's definitely the drug that brought me to my knees out of all that shit, I went on like a, I went on like a 5, I went on like a 5-day binge, and, my parents were out of town, right? They went out to Vegas. My dad's mom wasn't doing good, and his sister had lung cancer, so she was in the hospital, and his sister, my aunt, was the caretaker of their mother, who had dementia. So she had to go into the hospital to have fluid drained, and then my parents would go out there and sit with my grandma, and be with her, of course, and take care of her while my aunt was in the hospital for a couple of days. So they went out there for a week, and of course I was living, at the house with my sister, and but yeah, I went on like a 5-day binge, lost my job real quick, called, made up some story. I can't even remember what the hell I said, but regardless, that shit was so insane, and I mean, you're staying up, you're not eating, you're barely drinking fluids. You just, goddamn, your mind just, like, the way you see things on that drug, it's just, your perspective of things is just changed. It's really strange. I don't know. It's hard to explain it into words, I mean, obviously, like, yeah, you take acid, you hallucinate, and stuff like that, but like, this is like, you get stuck on something, and like, all of a sudden, you're just like zoned in on that, and you will conjure up some crazy freaking scenarios in your head, and so I came home, right? It was on the 5th day, and it was like 5:00 in the morning, and I was going home, and I got fucking pulled over. Now, mind you, it was 5 days, right? I looked like shit. My eye, because the toxins just come out of you, right? So I used to fuck with my skin really bad too, so I had all those, marks and whatever on me, and My eye was bloodshot red, one eye, and I got pulled over. I guess because I think I was like speeding or swerving or something like that, and I was literally turning off of US 1 into my neighborhood, and they pulled me over. And oh God, I was so scared, but I just went through the whole thing. And then all of a sudden that cop came back. He asked for my license, and then he came back and gave me my license so fast. And he said, go home. And he ran into his car and they took off. So they obviously had a very important call, right? That's what I got to tell myself today, because at that time I definitely thought something different.
Yeah.
Now everybody's in on it, there was some crazy shit going on. They were all against me. Yeah. And, so I go home, and which was like right up the road. And so I start looking around the house, and like everything looks fucking weird, right? And like when you're on that shit, like, if something's moved differently, like that's what I'm talking about. Like something's moved differently, you think, some crazy shit about it, right? Somebody was in the house, this and that. Like, I don't remember being like that. Like, it's just nuts.
Yeah.
So I go into my sister's room, and something looked different. Yeah, I can't even remember what it was. And so, like, now she's in on it, right? In on it.
Yeah.
And I call her, and she answers on the first ring. I was like, what the fuck? It's 5 a.m.
Yeah.
Why are you answering, right? So I was like, hey, what are you doing? All aggressive, too. You get really aggressive on that shit. And I'm like, what are you doing? She was like, oh, I'm heading home. I was like, I bet you fucking are. I was like, I'll fucking see you when you get here. She was like, okay, you all right? I was like, I'll see you when you get here. And I hang up on her. I don't know why I'm acting like.
Yeah.
So I hang up on her. And she gets there. And so, like, now I've already set the stage. Like, she ain't seen me in 5 fucking days. She knows something is up, right? And she comes in and, like, she's nervous, right?
Yeah.
So now I take that as, why are you fucking nervous?
So.
Right, exactly. Rightfully so. So I'm like, why are you fucking nervous? The way I'm looking at it, like, what did you do to be so nervous, And I just lose my shit and I start going, cussing around, you know what I mean? Whatever I was saying then,
Yeah.
I don't even remember what I said. I just remember, though, like, I'll never forget this image of her face and how scared she was. You know what I mean? Like, I'll never forget that. It's burned into my brain. And what she had to go through living with me.
Scared and probably perplexed.
Yeah.
Because when you see somebody having mental illness that you're familiar with, that's normally normal.
Right.
You're like, what the hell is going on?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So those, because, we had Carly on and she had, a lot of similar experiences.
Oh, yeah.
Does it get like that, really bad like that, when you're up for like long days at a time? Or is it like...
Yeah, I think it is at a point when you've used a lot of it and you're up now for a few days.
Okay.
You know what I mean? That's usually when you start fucking tripping out. So when you come down,
though, you come kind of back to normal, or?
No. Like, maybe some, yes, but, goddamn, some damage is done,
Yeah.
And you really believe the shit that you know what I mean? Like, you think, like, that shit lasted a while when I was clean. You know what I mean? Like a good close to 2 years, It lightened up the longer I stayed clean and the more recovery came into me and the further I got away from the disease. All that shit takes place. But, it took a while to like undo that doing, if that makes sense.
No, yeah.
Yeah. Like I cried a long time, like my first year, because I really did still believe shit. Yeah.
It's like then you're caught in the middle. You're like halfway normal and halfway crazy, and you're like, I know I'm not supposed to be.
And you don't want to believe that you're just fucking crazy.
Yeah. Or probably scared that this is going to last forever.
Yeah, actually, and I did do that. I was like, God damn, when is this going to stop? When will this change?
Will it change?
Will it? Yeah. Will it? Is it? Is this just it for the rest of my life? Right, exactly. Thank God, you know what I mean? Yeah, I stayed clean and kept doing everything I was going to do or had to do because, I definitely scared myself that time, and that was just the beginning. I still used meth for, 8 months or something. So
8 months. So how long did you use that?
did I only my last year.
Really?
Yeah, I know, it's
that's
crazy.
all you needed.
Yeah, that was it. That was it.
Yeah.
And it was binge using too.
Mm.
You know, it wasn't like a consistent, 8 months, full year, whatever, it was, but again, right, when, the binge is, 5 days a week, whatever, so there was that time, and I remember my sister, right, freaked out. So this is when I was still with the clinic, though, right? So I didn't go those 5 days, right?
Mm-hmm.
So now I was like, fuck, man, I'm ready to go to bed. Let me go get my dose, and calm down, right? Hopefully that'll help. And so I, and everything's so aggressively, right? So I made my sister take me, fucking take me, and so she takes me up there, and now she, of course, was very concerned for, my well-being. So I think we had discussed, like, me talking to the counselor or something, because I remember I went in the one door first to go get my dose. I got that, just staying at the ground because my eyes all fucked up, like everything looking crazy, right? And I got my dose. And then I went to the other door to go see my counselor. I don't even know why, but, you're just, whatever. You go in there and I told her what I did. And I was all fucked up. And she was like, well, you can't get your dose. And I was like, ha, I already did. I remember saying it like, I got you, bitch. It's so it's crazy. And then I like storm out of there. And oh yeah, because the rehab place is on the corner. So we just drive over there, 8 parking spots away. We drive over there. And but they wouldn't take me because it's psychological, right? They save the beds. It's a small place. It's got like 16 beds or something. So they save them for alcohol and the opiates and stuff like that. The physical withdrawals.
So it's a detox center.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I said rehab, right? Yeah, it's a detox center. And so they wouldn't take me. So excuse me. So I know he did tell my sister, like, just take her home.
Get this bitch out of here.
Let her ramble. Yeah, I know, right? Yeah, can't have her up in here talking all crazy shit. He told her, he was like, just take her home. He's like, she's gonna fucking ramble. Like, they gave my sister the whole rundown. They were like, she's gonna ramble. She's gonna talk crazy shit. Just let her do it. And then she's gonna fucking get so exhausted she'll pass out. Right? That's exactly what happened.
Like a baby.
Yeah. That's exactly what happened too. We sat out on my back porch, right? Smoking cigarette after cigarette. I don't even know what I said. This was like, my sister told me all of this a little bit later, once I was like actually clean and stuff like that. Yeah, I just talked all kinds of crazy shit. She got like bits and pieces of little stories and stuff. She was like, I don't know what the fuck you did or what you were doing. I was like, hell, I don't even know. But yeah, and then I did. And then you just, ramble on for 2 fucking hours. And then you get so exhausted, you just boom, passed out, right on the, we had like the little patio furniture in the back porch and passed out on it. Wow. And that was it,
So you said this lasted for like 8 months. So
yeah. So, well, so after this time though, we went over to my mom's house. My sister had to do some stuff over there. She was like, come to mom's with me. And I was like, all right. And so now I'm like, I went into the spare bedroom. I actually went to sleep, slept a whole fucking day. You know what I mean? Didn't even wake up. Woke up the next day, had, pissed myself and everything. I was like, wow. God damn, Got up, I was completely just dehydrated. Oh my God, I'll never forget how like thirsty I was too, right? Got up, changed my clothes and stuff. My sister was in the computer because my parents were still out in Vegas, right? And so I passed back out. And then I think it was like the next day, they came home. And at that time, my sister was trying to find like a rehab to actually, put me in. And she was in contact with one of those like Christian-based, like 18-month program ones, but I wasn't having that, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah. And so my parents come home and, you know, it's just, you know, what we put them through, you know what I mean? Here they are coming home from dealing with my, you know, dad's sick sister and mother, you know, and across the country, on the other side of the country. And then they come home to, you know, me laid up in bed after a fucking binge looking crazy as hell, you know. So, you know, they were really upset. And, of course. And, we decided that, you know, time to change everything. So now I'm not going to go to the clinic either. Right. I'm going to kick it again, yet again. Right. Because I always cold turkey in my mom's spare bedroom. That was like the routine over the course of the years. Like I've done that several times, you know? And, so I did that, went for about 29 days, and I was going to meetings every day this, you know, time.
Yeah.
And, I made it 29 days, got high that night, right? Because that guy, you know, we reached out to each other, whatever. I was just still so wrapped up in the fantasy of things, you know?
Yeah.
And, so yeah, so, you know, got high that night and then, you know, left the house and everything, you know? Just took my car and that was it, you know? And then that set the course for like the next 8 months where me and him were doing our thing every day, you know, running and stuff like that. And, you know, sleeping in my car, you know, motel rooms, you know, because he didn't have anything, you know. And so that was my, you know, being homeless and all that stuff, like a lot of first in that time period, you know. And so yeah, and again, like I said, it was just binge using. I don't want to say just, but with that at that time, you know, it wasn't every single day, but yeah, it was binging, and or you know maybe smoke crack or something like that on a Friday night. You know? Let's just smoke crack tonight. You know,
let's take it easy.
Yeah. That's so crazy. And so like, right. So that's what we were doing. And, you know, I wasn't working, you know, I had a couple interviews, would never make them. Or if I make the interview, I'd get the job, wouldn't make the first day, you know. So like a lot, like, you know, now a lot of those things was changing in me, you know what I mean? Where I just couldn't really, I don't know, maintain or whatever. And, I was miserable too. Like, God, like that was the time where I really then became just like that complete shell of a body, just walking around. You know what I mean? I barely talked anymore. You know my laugh. I'm very loud and boisterous laugh. I mean, I couldn't even laugh anymore. Like I literally couldn't. You know, I remember one time I did try to laugh, and it was just like this weird noise came out, you know? Like something was legit funny, but to have that, you know, the spirit in me was just freaking dying, you know?
Yeah.
My skin was awful. Gosh, I'll never forget how bad it was. Oh my God, my skin was so bad. And, you know, fast forward to the end, really, because it didn't take long.
Yeah.
You know, my last time I got high, it was 12 days. I was up.
12 days.
Yeah.
No sleep.
Nope. 12 days. Very possible it was 14 days, but I know for sure it was 12.
Yeah.
But I'm not, you know what I mean? But yeah, definitely 12 days. And that shit was intense.
12 days alone, no drugs.
Hmm?
Will make 12 days alone. Just being up for 12 days alone with no drugs will make you crazy.
Yeah. Yeah, I know. Real fucking nuts.
Now add meth on top of that.
Right. Right.
Yeah, that's absolutely. You know.
That's when I scared myself.
Yeah.
Yeah. And the shit that occurred during that whole 12 days.
Yeah.
It just, I got a job at Sonny's, actually. Sonny's, no barbecue joint.
We're not representatives of Sonny's.
Oh, sorry. Yeah.
No, I'm just joking.
They actually closed down anyways, this particular one.
Yeah.
I actually got a job there. I think I was there for like a month. And it was like, we were doing all right, you know? And we actually got into an apartment. I asked my mom, though, to front the money to me, right? And she, you know, but, you know, led her to believe that I was doing well and that we had been doing well, you know? And I'll never forget, she gave me the deposit and her exact words were, "Ashley, don't fuck this up." I'll never forget it. And we made it 3 weeks and fucked it up.
Wow.
Yeah. We moved into this place. Oh, I mean, it started because that 3 weeks includes that 12 days of the fucking, right?
Yeah.
Fucking it all up. So, yeah, we literally moved into that place and I, you know, got off of work and, you know, we got some shit and, you know, it just, God, it was crazy. You know, just the insanity in that whole thing. You know, I didn't make it back to work, obviously. We were, I mean, just the abuse and the fighting and, you know, a lot of, you know, I mean, never mind the course of my whole disease of just some degradation and everything like that. But, you know, just crazy stuff during this 12 days. I mean, you know, thinking that, you know, we're against each other and doing all this stuff, but, you know, you think that, but then you can't let the person out of your sight. You know what I mean? And it just this sick cycle, you know? And, yeah, I mean, I remember at one point, and I'm just going to share this story because I told Carly I would share my embarrassing story because she told hers about popping her head out.
Yeah.
So I don't even know why, but we parked the car at the library and I just needed to get away from him, right? That's what I felt. I was like, I just gotta go.
Yeah.
So not to go better myself, but you know, like I just had to leave, right? So I hop out the car and I start running across the street, right? And there was this business and I like went up against the wall and I was like, you know, like not the army crawl, but like, you know, like trying to stay all against the fucking wall of the building and like trying to sneak around to the other sise. Meanwhile, the side that I'm on, the whole, it's like right against US 1. So all these here I am trying to think I'm like incognito and sneaking and hiding and I'm like right in the front of US 1.
Blending in with the wall.
Hanging right in the front of US 1. All these cars are driving by. I was like, oh my God. You know, it's just so funny when I think about that stuff. Like, it's not funny. Of course, it's very sad. Yeah. But right, we find, you know, we heal from our own past and then we can laugh about things, you know?
For sure.
So, yeah. So, it, you know, just, I mean, I thought he was like going to take me somewhere. And like what was going on in my head at that time, I thought he was like going to take me somewhere and I was going to like get murdered and stuff like that. Right. So I was trying to get away from him and that just carried on and on and on and on just throughout every single day. It was just nuts, you know? Mm-hmm. And then we were like 6 days into this whole run, 6 or 7 days, I think. And like, that's when I got arrested for the first time because I had a warrant out for my arrest. It was actually that night too. Yeah, that was the same night. It seems like one bad long day when I think about it.
Technically, I guess.
Yeah, I know, right? It is. But it was like you know, what, all the crazy stuff, right? We're driving, going up and down 95, you know, from St. Augustine, kind of up here to this area, like Old St. Augustine Road, turning around, going back down, you know, because he's like trying to get the information out of me, you know, whatever that was about, right? And I mean, like, you know, I remember us fighting in the car and I'm like grabbing the wheel. I mean, just, you know, I'm so lucky to be alive. Like, I know that, You know what I mean? I really fucking truly know that, you know? And so and like he purposely ran the car out of gas. You know what I mean? Like, 'cause like we were running out of gas, had no money, right? So to keep going up and down 95 to all these exits, right? And runs the car out of gas on the side of 95. So then we're like walking up to the exit, but he's like dragging me a lot. And I mean, I'm like barefoot, you know, t-shirt, just like ripped up, you know, clothes, like the way that we look out there, right? And after a few years clean, I got like my police record and stuff like that, like the reports and stuff like that. It was when I had to do my license for my job. Do you ever remember me calling you then? I don't know. We'll get to that later. But yeah, so I had that information, so like to see, and I was reading about it, and you know, it turns out like semi trucks that were driving by were like worried, right? Because like we were practically like walking into the lane, and like, you know, they could see him like, you know, grabbing me and dragging me down the road and stuff like that. And so they ended up, you know, calling the cops, and then of course they found the car, saw that I had a warrant. You know, so I was able to read the whole process of how this went out. Because, of course, at that time, you know, I was in that mindset of everybody's against me and they all fucking know what's going on and all this shit, right? But several years later, I was able to read all this. I was like, oh, interesting. So
I do remember you calling me about this now.
Yeah. So it was when I was getting my license.
It was
I was
really
all worried about, like, just scared, you know?
Yeah, it wasn't the details of the story. It was more about, like, getting your license.
Yeah. So, so then the cops came up, and you know, I was like on the ground on my hands and knees. He was like threatening to do all this shit and everything, and so like right at that time they pulled up, and so I had the warrant out, so they took me to jail. Pissed me off too, because I know they saw what they saw.
Yeah.
But you know, I had the warrant, so. But I say it pissed me off, but actually I was so relieved to like get away from that whole situation at that time, you know? And, so I was happy to get arrested, as crazy as that sounds.
Yeah.
But then I go to jail, or at least in the holding area, right? Because, you know, I did my hard 6 hours, hard time.
Yeah.
And then he bonded me out. But during that 6 hours, I fucking lost it in that holding cell. Oh my God, I thought there was like, oh shit, I thought there was like ways to get out. I was like all around the walls. Like, I remember this shit. I know they were probably thinking like, I mean, they're probably used to it though. Who knows, right?
Yeah.
So I'm like all around the walls trying to find like this secret button that's going to unlock the fucking door and I can get out, right?
Yeah.
Okay, and then I had first appearance, and you know, they fucking put all the damn chains on you and stuff. And I remember I was like, all this for first appearance? Jesus Christ. Yeah. He got so mad at me. And so they walk you into the room, right? And so I'm sitting there, and I thought that whole thing was fucking staged. Because it seemed like forever and nobody was saying anything. I was like, this is not even a real first appearance. Like, you know, like I thought the whole thing was fucking staged and they were all in on it. Yeah. I mean, my mind was just fucking gone, dude. And then this was the first time I heard like auditory hallucinations. I thought it was like my only friend that I had, like the one friend that I managed to keep this all these years. I thought she was talking to me through the handcuffs and was telling me how to get out. Wow. I swear to God. So I was like bent over and like had the handcuffs up to my ears, like through the keyhole. I thought she was talking to me. Fucking nuts, dude.
The people in the cell were probably like,
I know. I can only imagine what I looked like.
Yeah.
Insane.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. I don't even remember. I don't know, at whatever point. I don't even remember. I couldn't hear. Like when people were talking to me, I don't even know what they were saying to me.
Yeah.
So again, I just got through that day, through that whole thing. And they took me back to the holding cell, and yeah, still trying to find that secret button to get out. And then I think I did doze off for a little bit then, and I did. So, but it wasn't long, you know what I mean? And then I don't even remember, like, by the time I came to, I was signing some papers and they were walking me out. I don't remember changing back into my clothes. I only remember when they came to me and got me out of the cell and was like, okay, you're going, you're getting bonded out, whatever. I don't remember none of that shit. And then, you know, I left and, you know, just went right back to it because it was him, of course. He bonded me out and jumped in the car and shit, went right back to it, you know?
Yeah.
And then that led into the last week of doing everything and, you know, and then everything came to fucking.
What was that last day like?
Yeah. So, we were fighting. Well, we weren't fighting. Like, again, because, like, I didn't have a voice anymore at that time. You know what I mean? I just lost all my spark and whatever. You know, lost everything in me, you know? And, I mean, hell, I lost my voice a long time ago before all of that. But, you know, I definitely was losing my spirit at that time. So, like, whenever things were being done, I just had nothing in me to even, like, try and attempt to fight back or nothing like that, right? So, somehow, yeah, I walked outside, right? And I all of a sudden had that urge. I was like, because it wasn't far from where I used to live with my sister, right? I was like, but it was far enough to walk, right? And it was like kind of across the main street. But I remember telling myself, like, just go to Nicole's house, right? Just fucking go, Ashley, right? And I was like trying to like talk myself into doing it, right? And but I was too scared and I couldn't do it, you know? And I started to walk towards like the end of this apartment complex and, you know, and I know I looked crazy. I mean, no bra, no fucking shoes, just, you know, nuts looking. And I see the car coming down, and it was early morning, like 7 a.m. or something. And I can see she's got her hand out with a cigarette, and I like practically jump in front of the car. I was like, "Give me a cigarette!" You know, she gives me a cigarette, and so I'm smoking. I'm like trying to like hype myself up to like go walk, like just get out of here, you know. And I didn't though. I turned around and I sat on the bench, right in front of this pond. And I sat there for a while and very absent-minded, you know? And all of a sudden I'm looking at these ducks and they're swimming and they look happy. And it was like a mom duck and the baby ducks and they're like dunking their head in the water and playing. And it just pissed me off, right? And it was the first thing though to spark a feeling in me, right?
Yeah.
And anger was the feeling, right? But it was a feeling. And that was, you know, nice to feel. It was nice to have a feeling come back in me, right? And I was like, these goddamn ducks. Why are they so fucking happy? You know, like it really struck, you know, it just really pissed me off. And I was like, all of a sudden I started to think, right? And I just like started to actually have my own thoughts again and just like, what the fuck am I doing? Like all of a sudden I just saw me and my whole life, you know what I mean? For who I was and what I had become and this and that and just saw everything, you know? And I was like, oh my God, like who have I become? What am I doing here? Like what is going on? And like I said, it just sparked some type of life in me.
Yeah, kind of like a spiritual awakening.
Yeah, it truly was. I believe that to the core, you know? Because the gift of desperation was like strong, you know? The obsession to use was lifted in that moment. You know what I mean? It just kind of all went together. It was the awakening, the lifting, whatever, you know? And I truly do believe that, you know?
Yeah.
Total God moment. Obviously it's God, you know what I mean? Because if it was me, I would have done that shit a long fucking time ago. I would have quit a long time ago, you know what I mean? But that's the whole point of the disease of addiction and the compulsion. You know, we have no control over it, right? So it just drives us. And Yeah. So it definitely wasn't me,
Yeah.
you know? The ducks had a lot to do with it too,
Yeah.
though. So I got up and like, now I'm angry, right? And I go in there and this fucking guy is like laying our air mattress, because that's what we had. He's like laying like diagonal and like on the air mattress, just looking all comfortable. And I was like, you motherfucker.
Yeah.
Just start fucking wailing and throwing shit. And I mean, I was just throwing everything. I was a thrower.
Yeah.
Yeah. And, or I would try and run you over with my car. I've done that a couple of times over the years. 2 different guys can attest to that. So, but yeah, something cut his face. I don't know what it was, but something cut his face that I threw. And, he got up and, you know, started like, you know, smearing the blood on the doors and the walls and stuff like that, and trying to make it like he's the victim, you know? Yeah. Oh my God. You know, I was like, quit fucking doing that, you little bitch, you know? And just fight me, right? Now I'm just want to fight.
Yeah.
And so we did. We went at it for a little while. And so actually right before that though, right? Right before we started to actually fight in the living room. That's right. He was like, I remember he like, once he got up off the air mattress, like the phone rang and it was my mom. And she was calling, right? Because we talked about this afterwards. You know, she was calling to, you know, X me out of the life, you know? And, you know, she was pretty much like, I can't, you know. I remember her saying, this was actually prior to this, but anyways, yeah, she was saying, you know, I can't bear the thought of seeing you, you know, like this. And I can't have you in my life, you know, for all good reason, of course. Totally get it and understand, you know. She couldn't even bear to look at me though, you know what I mean? So, she was calling to say all of that. And I was just started screaming in the background. I was like, come fucking get me, you know?
Yeah.
And she did, right? I can't even, you know, I don't have kids, obviously, you know that. And I can't even imagine the love for your child, you know, to put them through that stuff. And, oh man, they just still come. I know, I'm sorry, but like, they just still come. You know what I mean? No matter what, she was always fucking there. You know, even at times when she couldn't be for the sake of her own fucking sanity, you know? She knew something that day and she heard me when I was screaming and I was like, come fucking get me, you know? And, so, you know, she hung up. She was like, I'm coming. And she hung up. And then that's when me and him really started fighting. Sorry.
There you go.
And, we started fighting and everything. And the neighbors called the cops. I mean, these fucking neighbors were hearing us for 2 fucking weeks. Oh my God. I can't even imagine what they heard. Because there was one time we came home and there was a note on our door, like, because the people upstairs could fucking hear us, you know? I can't remember what it said, but it, you know, pretty much shut the fuck up, like, you know? In so many words, you know? Have some respect for your neighbors type of stuff. Yeah. And so the neighbors were so over it and called the cops, and the cops came, and then my parents were there, right? And then his sister came to get him. And I'll never forget, the cop was just like, you know, do you need help? Because I could see the pain all over your face. And I was like, yeah, I do. Like, I'll never forget that, you know? I'll never forget that cop. I remember his name and everything because it was just one of those, you know, a complete stranger when they tell you something. You know what I mean? Like, my parents could say that stuff. My family could say that stuff to me all day long. And I was just like, whatever.
Yeah.
You know?
It hits a little different.
It does. And he was like, I could see the pain all over you. And I was like, yeah, I need help.
Yeah.
You know? And that was also like when I was having that moment on the bench, it was like also the first time I admitted like I hated myself. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
To me, it was the first time I admitted that to myself. I think all those years prior of going to NA and stuff like that, and I had said so many times, I'm an addict. It just didn't hold the value, you know? So for me, when I was like, I fucking hate myself, like that was a big shift in me. You know what I mean? Like that shift happened. And then that cop said that, and I was like, well, everybody's seeing something that they've been seeing something that I haven't quite seen yet. So, his sister came, took him away, and my parents just stood there. They didn't know what to say. They didn't know what to do. They just stood there, And I talked to the cop for a little bit, and he was like, listen, whatever cut his face. They were like, if he presses charges or something, we're going to arrest you. Like, we're going to have to, And I was like, fuck, I just got bonded out a week before. They were talking about that. I was like, listen, I know. This doesn't look good.
That looks kind of bad right now.
Yeah. And I'm not blaming any of this on him. Of course, that guy. I'm just, this was just a fucking story in the insanity, I own my part in everything. So, in this whole situation, right? And but it didn't come down to that. You know what I mean? He didn't press charges. He left. I went with my parents. My mom took me to their house. They didn't want me there at their house, but she was like, you got to fucking figure something out. We're going to take you home now, but you got to fucking figure something out. I was like, all right. So, wasn't too hard, right? Got on laptop and Googled halfway houses or something like that, Yeah. And it was like 2 rehabs, and then the third option was the halfway house that I found, right? Or that I ended up moving into, which brought me to Jacksonville, of course, right? So not far, obviously. St. Augustine is just right up the road, but but yeah, that's kind of why I came up here, moved into that house and kind of started this whole journey, met that guy, met the homeowner. I called him and he was like, yeah, come on up here. Can you be here in an hour? And I was like, wow, this is way too quick. But I looked at my mom. She's like, get in the car. I was like, fuck, this is happening, but I was fucking done. Like I felt it in me. That's what I'm saying. Like that whole shift in me, like that change happened. I was defeated. I couldn't do it anymore, And so we did. We got in the car. We drove up here, met him. He was like, okay, come back when you have 4 days because then you'll be able to pass a UA. And I was like, all right. And I looked at my mom. I was like, can I just stay, please? And she allowed me, She was like, well, let's go home. Let me talk to your father first, blah, 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 blah. And they let me stay the few days with them. She was like a drill sergeant, though. I just wanted to sleep the 3 days away. Yeah. She would not let me. Yeah. She came in. She'd open up the blinds, 7 a.m., open up the blinds, get me out of bed, start me on doing chore, all that stuff. I was like, damn. Yeah. I'm 30 years old. I don't even know goddamn chores. I didn't really have much of an attitude, though, this time. I remember thinking that stuff, but I just, when you're willing, you start changing things. You know what I mean? Like, that's what I saw in myself this time, I wasn't willing prior. So, yeah. And then I moved into the halfway house and started that path, got into meetings, started going back, I lived there for my first 13 months of being clean, I didn't want to make any impulsive decisions, I didn't leave until I really felt it in my gut that it was time to go, stayed away from men. Of course. That was, I knew, day one, obviously, I knew, okay, men and drugs just hand in hand, you know what I mean? Like, I just got to stop both, plus two, again, like, I mean, we met when, I don't know, I had almost 18 months or something like that. I remember the New Year's Eve party. So it was early on, but not like beginning. But yeah, I mean, it was early on. And, a lot of y'all would be like, damn, Ashley, you're never dating anybody. Yeah. It's like, how can you do that? Like, people would be like, how do you like stay? How do you not do it? How are you not having sex? And I'm just like, I don't want to be touched. Like, it wasn't hard. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I couldn't stand the thought of being touched, and just, I had nothing to give anybody. You know what I mean? Like, I saw that right away. I was like, I got nothing to offer nobody, you know? So it wasn't too hard to like not do it, you know? I just needed some friends. That was it, you know? And like get clean and do all that stuff. So, yeah, but you know, talking back at like the beginning stage of you know, the mindset and letting the paranoia, I mean, that shit lasted a while. Like, I had to just really learn like the things that I had thought before, you know, wasn't true. It was frightening. It really was scary, you know? I mean, the beginning for quite some time, it was still the numb feeling, and then anger and fucking sadness. Like, that was the feelings I had, you know? And so I would just wake up, and, you know, luckily in that house, it was the structure and the routine and, you know, learning to do all of that and staying on top of it. And I was really grateful for that. What's that? I was really grateful for all of that.
The psychosis.
And yeah. But damn, yeah. I mean, I would just be, you know, the roller coaster of emotions, like we talk about, right? It's like no feeling, and then something would happen, or, you know, I didn't like the way somebody fucking looked over at me, and it just, you know what I mean, pissed me off, and then I'd be like angry, and then I would go back to the halfway house and like, you know, curl up on the closet floor crying my eyes out because I didn't know what was real. You know, I didn't know if it was real or just whatever. I couldn't get a grasp on my thoughts sometimes, and, you know, it sucks. It's miserable, you know? But, you know, there's the other side, thank God. You know what I mean? You just got to stay clean and get out onto the other side of it. And then it starts to settle. Like, I definitely don't have those problems anymore today, you know?
If somebody was to meet you today, they would not. They would be like, what?
Yeah, I know. I'm sure.
Yeah, because of your bubbly, you know, bright personality.
Yeah. Which is funny, too, because, you know, like, I think about that, like, you know, with this and, like, telling the story part, you know, like, sometimes we need to hear those.
Yeah. For
another addict, an early newcomer, to be like, damn, okay, well, I can relate to that. And it's like, if they got through it, I can get through it, too.
Yeah.
You know? Because I remember there's this one woman, and I mean, she's beautiful, you know what I mean, and sweet, and just thoughtful and kind, and just all of that, right? But when she tells her story, I couldn't believe it. And she was like one of the first ones early on, you know? I mean, she used to like disappear for days on end in Detroit, like, you know, some serious shit, and smoking crack and being all in those crack houses and stuff. And it's like, when you look at her, it's like, wow, I would have never thought that.
Yeah.
You know? So it was like hearing her story in the beginning of when I got clean. It was kind of when it, you know, made me realize, like, doesn't matter what we look like, and, you know what I mean? All that type of stuff, like what I struggled with in the prior years, you know?
Yeah.
But, you know, she also had 18 years clean when I met her. So, of course, you know,
she ain't gonna look the same.
Right. Exactly. Exactly.
Yeah. I have somebody, I was talking to a guy named Jeff. I don't know if you're familiar with him, but he's expressed a willingness to come on the podcast, which I'm really grateful. And him and his wife look like the sweetest grandparents you would ever meet. You know what I mean?
Oh, I know who you're talking about.
Yeah, and you're like,
them.
they look like such a little cute old couple, but like you hear their story and you're like, golly. You know?
They recently moved to the area?
Yes.
Oh, well, yes. I love them. They're freaking awesome.
They are. Yeah. They are. Yeah. And I'm like, wow. So I can't wait to get them on, because it's that story, you know? And then I think it's that story with most of us, you know, you don't come in here to be the same person.
Yeah, no, not at all.
And many people that meet me now are like, what?
Yeah.
You know, and a lot of people don't even know, like, my professional life and stuff like that. So if they hear this stuff, they're gonna be like, Jesus Christ.
Yeah, right. Yeah. So, you know, and just the changes through recovery. I mean, it's just been a blessing. You know, completely nothing that I ever could have imagined. What's the saying?
Yeah, the life beyond my wildest dreams.
Yeah, the wildest dreams. You know what I mean? I can't even fucking have wild dreams because, you know, this shit just doesn't even match whatever I could dream, you know?
Yeah. Yeah, they say if, like, when you're first getting clean, if you write down all the things you want to accomplish in recovery, you would in your first year, whatever, you sell yourself far short, which is true that just about everybody I've met.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. It's I mean, yeah, it's just like so many things, I mean, that beginning stage of everything, just of course getting so grounded and building the foundation and just going through that process and, making friends and, like true friends and stuff like that. And then, what I was talking about earlier, like getting my license, you know what I mean, for my job, being licensed by the state, and it's fucking cool, like I never thought I would leave a restaurant, I never thought somebody could believe in me, like my boss does, saw something in me to call me and say, hey, I have an opening and I thought of you and would you like to come and, work for me and, we'll get you your license and blah, blah, just going on through that, and, people definitely see things in us that we don't see in ourselves, so it's, pretty cool to, have that. And then, I remember when I called you and cause it was, you got to submit your, whatever it was, the judgments, the this, the that, why you're arrested, whatever. But then the last piece that you have to submit was in your own words, explain what happened. And I was stuck on that, right? Yeah. I was like, oh my God, I don't know. I don't know what I want to do this. I was so scared. And I remember reaching out to you for that. And, because you had to do the same thing with your job. And, we talked about it. And of course, you gave me that guidance. And you know what I mean? And again, it's just, it's awesome to have people go through the same thing so we know that we can get through it too, And then, of course, the fear, though. But, I sent it. And of course, all was well, Yeah. You know what I mean? The fear was just all in my head more than anything.
Yeah. It's that transition of realizing that your past is not, you're not hostage to your past. If anything, it's one of the biggest assets you'll ever have because of the ability that it gives you to help somebody that comes behind you.
Right.
You know? And like the freedom you have today, not just like financial or the job and all that stuff, but like the comfortability in your own skin. The lack of paranoia for you,
right? Yeah, I know. Exactly. And that's really been like the biggest gift of anything is just how comfortable I am now in my own skin. Like what I struggled with originally at that very young age of 12 years old, like I just shit, I remember when I couldn't even go check the mail without putting on makeup. And shit, I never wear makeup anymore. Yeah. You know what I mean? I'll put makeup on for, a wedding and like nice occasions and stuff like that. But, I was just so worried about what you thought and what you saw, you know what I mean? And it's just none of that matters anymore. Like that's such a freedom, that I've only gained by this whole process, learning new ways and just like self-love and the self-care and you know what I mean. Yeah, it's that's been like the biggest gift. And definitely the mental aspect of things for sure. I don't I will talk about this though real quick too as well. Like there was a little dark period right when I hit 5 years as well. It was right before my 5-year anniversary, actually. And I did kind of get depressed again and stuff like that. And, I had to acknowledge it and, take a look at it, you know what I mean? And, make that step that I, was kind of against. Like when I first got clean, I was like, I don't want nothing. I don't want to take anything, because I think we're just so strong with that in the beginning, But I did have to make some changes and go to a doctor and get some outside help and stuff like that at that time. And so, I did kind of struggle for a short period, but really ever since then, I dove really back into, some, prayer, meditation and stuff like that. And you know what I mean?
Yeah. So did you just do counseling?
No, I got on some medicine. I got on antidepressants. So yeah.
Are you still taking those today?
I do. Yeah. I'm decreasing them.
Yeah.
Well,
I got to say that like a lot of when you take stuff like that, even though working in like that field for a little while, like a lot of people complain about the like it lowers their energy levels. You know what I mean? Their outgoingness. But I don't see that at all with you.
No, I don't think so. I'm very outgoing still.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's very beneficial, huh?
Yeah. I'd say so. And I'm grateful that I did it too, because I don't know, it was just like I was so against it for a while, but then my mental health was really declining, you know. I mean, I woke up one morning and just started crying, and I was just like, why don't you just off yourself? And I was like, it got, you know what I mean? It just went, I don't know what happened. It just, you know, I mean, mental illness, that's what happened, but,
well, there's a reason why that field even exists, because it's real.
Yeah, for sure.
So it's more of a disservice to not acknowledge it, to yourself.
Yeah, right, exactly. So I had to do that and stuff, but, kind of got back on the up and up. It was a good decision to make, of course. And
to the mic.
Yeah, sorry. I got a great relationship today with my family. I do want to say that because I put them through hell. I'm gonna go see them tomorrow for Easter, of course. Just hang out, go pick up my Nana, on my way in, and go over to my mom's house and hang out, enjoy the day together. So,
be a normal ass family.
Yeah, for real.
Not bugging.
Yeah,
what's in these eggs?
I know, right? Exactly. Just do some good things like that, and Adrian will go with me. I'm in a good, healthy relationship. So easy between us. So nice. We both have a very good understanding that. I mean, of course, you get your little tiffs as a relationship. That's going to happen. But we both know, like, we're not going to scream at each other. He had his past with that shit. So did I. Like, there's no need for it. It seems like.
Yeah.
When you're just like a healthy person now, you just don't do those things. But like, it's something to be said. Like, we just really both have that good understanding. Like, there's no reason to fucking talk to each other like that. It's so nice.
Yeah.
God, so nice.
Yeah. When you're in a healthy relationship, that's just how things are.
Yeah, I know. I know. Yeah. But it's like, I don't know.
You're not arguing. I want the push,
Yeah.
You had it last time.
Right. Yeah, now it's, ice cream is the worst of our problems.
Yeah.
We feed off of each other's, we're going to have ice cream tonight. Yeah, what kind? Yeah. Yeah. I don't know.
Well, you have an incredible story, and I really appreciate you coming on and sharing. You're one of my favorite people.
Yeah, you're my favorite too.
Oh, thank you.
One. One of them. No, and it is. It's, that's the good friendships that we make through these years. You know what I mean? And you've definitely been one of those.
Well, thank you.
Yeah,
thank you.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. And I know you're doing new things, when it comes to business and stuff like that. You want to plug your Ponzi scheme? Or
no.
I mean, your
thanks. No, I don't want to.
No, okay.
But yeah, I mean, that's been another thing over these last couple of years that I've worked on too, is like putting myself more out there. Like, a lot of the fear that I had before, Yeah. I mean, I just recently did oh God, what's it called? An improv class.
Yeah, just tell me about it.
Yeah. It was like 8 weeks long. Then we did the show at the end for our friends and it was so much fun. You know, I had a blast doing that. Met some good people. We all still keep in touch. We talk about maybe going to do this jam session. We haven't done it yet, but we keep talking about it. Yeah. Maybe we'll eventually go do it. But yeah, I mean, it's just been a lot of different things that I'm trying out now, and
taking risks, living life.
Yeah, absolutely. Other things with the festival, the 2 festivals that I work for as
Mm-hmm.
well, so yeah, I got a lot of,
Yeah.
a lot of pieces going on in my life, and
Yeah.
it's great,
You sure you don't want to mention that? Because I think it is a great thing. I like joke with you a lot, but teaching financial literacy
Well,
is
we are. I'm recently with this new
highly
company.
needed.
Yep, educating on financial literacy. That's kind of been my new venture. Working with financial advisors. I am not one. Want to note that.
Yeah.
But it'll open that door eventually for me if I want to become that and stuff like that. But working with them and just educating on financial literacy is very important. I mean, hell, what I've been learning I didn't even know. So I've been learning a lot myself.
Most people learn the hard way.
Yeah, exactly. Right, exactly. I know they do.
Myself included.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I mean, gosh. Go to North Carolina all the time, do a lot of mountain hiking. That's been like my new hobby over the last few years. And, it's been amazing. It's been an amazing journey.
Yeah.
Just had to quit using drugs to start it.
Yeah.
That's the start.
Yeah, that is a start. And then finding the new way to live.
Put the shit down.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, thank you very much for coming on.
Yeah, I appreciate it. Thank you.
And
Love
I really
you too.
appreciate it.
Yeah, awesome.
Thank you.
Bye.